This is Monocle on Design Extra. It's a short show to accompany our weekly program where we discuss everything from architecture and craft to furniture and fashion. I'm Nick Manise. Isay Weinfeld is one of Brazil's most celebrated contemporary architects. His work includes verdant residential buildings in Sao Paulo, the Jardim on New York's High Line, and Rio de Janeiro's Havaianas shop. However, it might come as a surprise to hear that architecture is not his first love. Isay has a relentless creative instinct. He's directed short films and recently completed a degree in creative writing. Isay joined me in the studio to discuss why he never wants to repeat the same design formulas anywhere in the world and why humility is an essential trait to the profession. I began by asking where his passion for architecture comes from.
I don't find any inspiration in architecture at all. My world is very wide. I'm very curious. I don't like this word also, inspiration, but I am a very strong consumer of movies. Then I love films. I was a director in the beginning of my career. Music is the big passion of my life. Theater, dance, art, fashion.
Architecture is not your main thing, I guess. No.
Thing. It's something that I'm doing in the last 50 years, but it's not the most important thing in my life, for sure.
How do all these different things that you're interested in and passionate about, how do they all feed and complement each other? How does the film complement the architecture? Does the art complement the film?
Everything goes through a funnel. At the end is a kind of architecture. But maybe for this reason, I can make a comparison. Maybe I always want to do something new in my work, not to have a formula, not to repeat myself, to try to turn the table and to risk and to do eventually things that goes wrong, but trying. Then I'm very proud not to have a style. But let's say talking to compare with a filmmaker. You see, for example, Woody Allen, that is one of my idols, but he's doing the same film of his life, and I love it. But I am more like Kubrick. He did so many different genres of film, but it's the same Kubrick. He did a romance, war, science fiction, everything completely different, but it was done by the same man. Then this is more or less nothing to compare with Stanley Kubrick, but this is maybe more the kind of thing that I love to do.
Why are you willing to take risks? And secondly, why don't more people do that?
It's very comfortable. If you find your style in your life, then you repeat this the whole life. It's very simple because you had the success already when people define your style. It's very easy in your office because you have a formula. You don't need to develop a new door hand every time because you have already this in your office done before. Then it's more work. Then I think not to take risk. It's so boring. If you find your style finally in life and then you repeat yourself for the next 30 years doing the same and having success and having money and to be safe, to have an office that can survive with this. This is not my cup of tea, let's say. It's not the way I feel. It's boring to do the same thing. Even in my office, I was never specialized in anything. From the beginning, I told the people, in a way through architecture, that I was able to design residential building, discotheques, restaurants, apartments, houses, everything. And it's not because I am a wonderful talent. It's because it's the same thing always. And I like this because I'm not repeating myself. I'm finding new ways to speak because now I am mature. I have the whole life that I lived in my shoulders. Then it's completely different now. Then this is a new sensation, something new that will surprise you. And then you can surprise people also.
I love that. Speaking of looking for new sensations, I know you've just done a postgraduate degree in writing. I know, you've got a book of short stories. Is this also part of it? Like not just pursuing creativity in architecture, but pursuing creativity elsewhere or learning elsewhere? Does that also feed into, I guess, the work that you do?
Yes, I love to learn new things. I'm always learning things that I love, music, astronomy, so many different things. And one of the most strong things about myself is humor. Can you imagine putting this humor in architecture? It would be a tragedy. Then I need other kinds of expression to this humor go into people, but not through architecture. Then this is why I wrote a book. This is what I did, feature films and short films I'm still doing. This is why I make art. And to go, the Instagram thing that I will launch a new book.
Instagram. Tell us about the Instagram.
The Instagram was every Sunday in the morning. During 10 years, I went to the outskirts of São Paulo, a city with 20 million people, to make some photographs about the amazing pieces of architecture outside the city.
And these are forgotten, unknown.
That is better than the architecture in the city, can you imagine? But people are something they don't like very much, but always with a view of criticism and humor, but mainly to criticize the society, our ways of behaving. And this was the Instagram that will turn to a book now.
So why is humor important here? Why is it important to make people laugh when you're trying to have these discussions?
For me, humor is the essence of my life. Apart my granddaughter, that she doesn't like my humor, but I need, this is something that is inside me.
Is it something that we should see in more architecture and design schools or architecture studios? Do you think there's a seriousness to the profession that would benefit from humour? Because it sounds like you're talking about these projects outside of the city centre of Brazil, and there's a tendency to be very serious and sober when talking about this sort of thing. Does humour make it accessible? What does humour do?
You said something very important, Nick. I do my work in a very serious way, but I don't take my work seriously, This is important. For the students, don't think that you are doing something special in life, that architecture will change the world and you are so important doing architecture. It's nothing about this, nothing. This is something I am having pleasure every day, choosing my clients, choosing what I want to do, giving them pleasure, I hope so. Not to think you are very serious doing something very important. It's really the opposite.
How does this lead to, I guess, a better built environment? As much as it's important to talk about your movies and your art and your writing, but if we're focusing on architecture, how does, I guess you're doing the work seriously, aware of that, but how do you bringing some levity, not taking yourself too seriously, how does that make you a better architect? Is that to do with taking out the ego? How does that serve you and the work that you do?
Oh, I think so. Taking out the ego, but as I said, respecting the client, respecting people. And this is something inside that we should have. Diversity, to talk to many kinds of people, to be with different people all the time, to be together, to try to give comfort that is so important in architecture.
Isay Weinfeld there. And for more from the Brazilian architect, pick up a copy of Monocle's July-August issue, which includes a feature on his life and work. You can find the magazine on all good newsstands now or online at monocle.com/shop. And if you're eager for more design stories, listen to our main program, Monocle on Design, airing on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. London time. Today's episode was produced and edited by Maylee Evans and Steph Chungu. Thanks for listening.